So in a way, you're saying it should be easier for you to get to where you want to be than them, and how is it that they're able to get to that level? How's it going? Welcome back to my channel. It's your boy Isaiah. We're back with another mother effing video. And for today, guys, we're gonna be talking about LanaDelRey. You know, the reason why we're gonna be talking about LanaDelRey is because of what she recently posted on her Instagram, and we're gonna just talk about it because we just have a discussion of what she talked about and why. Is it problematic? Does she have a point that she is really making within the music industry? Is she just being, you know, a pick me? Like, woe is me? You know, I'm the Moon Blanc who's not picked. I don't cast myself as, you know, the black girls. I don't over-sexualize myself, and I'm more of a person who's more about, you know, the inner me, you know? We gotta talk about it, because what she said a lot. She did say a lot. And some of it's like, you have to squint, and you gotta read it, and you gotta be like, oh, you said something right here, but you also said a whole lot of other stuff. So let's just, you know, have a conversation, because you made some points, and some points it's like, well, you can't really say that because there's some problems and issues with what you said. LanaDelRey has been making a lot of headway. You know, she's been talking about artists, you know, like Camila Cabello, Doja Cat, Nicki Minaj, Lana, Beyonce, and Ariana Grande. You know, they got #1 from basically talking about being sexy, wearing no clothes, fucking, cheating, etc. And how she's tired of seeing that, how if she can possibly go back to making music about being embodied, feeling beautiful, by being in love, even if the relationship is not perfect. So in a way, you're saying it should be easier for you to get to where you want to be than them, and how is it that they're able to get to that level? That's what she wants to, that's what she's basically making her argument about, and then talking about how critics have criticized her, and she gets the most criticism out of all the girls that she name dropped, which is very crazy to me, because it's like LanaDelRey, a white woman who makes music about, she's basically upset that there are just these liberal women and critics who are criticizing her for her music and the way that she does her artistry, and how it's easier for these other women to get it but not her, and she's the one who's being criticized the most. Because when you look at all the women she name dropped, they're all being criticized, even if they make #1. It's like, wait, how are you gonna criticize all these women, although everything they talk about the same things you talk about, although you talk about it a lot more, and you do talk about abusive relationships a lot more, and the way that your artistry is very different from their artistry. You have such a niche that's like, you're at the top of what your niche is, and to be honest with you, it's not much radio friendly, although I think some of it has been played on the radio, but you make such interesting music where it's not played on the radio. You know, thankfully we have streaming services where people can stream your music and you are wildly successful. It seems as though she's upset she hasn't gotten the praise or that satisfaction that these women have. But again, they have gotten ridiculed, if not more ridiculed than you, and more criticized than you have since you've been out in the 2010s. Alright, if we're really gonna call it, Doja Cat, she just came out. And she's been criticized for other things because, you know, she's just, that's a whole other story with Doja Cat. Ariana Grande criticized, and Ariana Grande does appease to a black audience because of her more soulful voice. As Camila Cabello criticized, barely criticized, and then if you want to talk about the most criticized group is Cardi B, Nicki Minaj, Beyonce, and Kehlani. Now, you take Kehlani and you take Cardi B out, you got Nicki Minaj and Beyonce. You make music for the everyday. You want the type of music that you make and the type of woman that you are, and this whole femininity thing to be like, make room for me, which there is room for you. There is room for you. You have the room. You are a white woman who gives off the persona, if this is the real you, of the 1920s woman who can be very strong, very independent, but then yet submissive to the man. And then it's like, okay, that's you, and you can put on a smile like, you know, Miss America. Congrats. That's what you are, that's what you do. And then you get into the whole aspect of the music. You only get criticized for the music that you make, while the other women get criticized for not only the music they make, but everything else about them, because America is very, what, as we know it, white. It's white. It's very much harder for somebody to be criticized for just the music. That's what you wanted to make it about, just the music. But we have to realize it comes down to just more than just music, because Nicki Minaj, Beyonce, first of all, they make music just like you. They talk about other things other than sex. They do make their hits because, you know, they want to be on the radio, and Beyonce nowadays don't even do that anymore. If we're gonna be honest, she talks about the same things you talk about, and not in an abusive way, but she definitely talks about the stuff you talk about. And not only is she criticized for the music that she makes, she also makes music for protesting. And she got ridiculed for helping out. She talks about Black Lives Matter, she talked about police brutality, but yet there's people who want to lynch her. There's people who want her dead, but yet you're the most criticized. I just don't see where the correlation comes from, how you're the most criticized and you just want to talk about music, but yet this happened to her. And then, not only when it comes to music, women get criticized in general. They don't get, you get criticized for your music, and then you get criticized for the persona that you give from the 1920s woman of a submissive woman. So then now, not only she's not familiar with these individuals' past, but it's like they've been ridiculed from head to toe. Let's think about it. White America, they like very much long backs, okay? But you look at Black America, what they like, and how it's criticized by the media and by critics, they talk about their bodies. Women get talked about on a day-to-day basis. So for you to sit there and say, oh, woe is me, pick me, why am I not being picked, is crazy, because you are the ideal woman. Although they're making music and they're making their music and they're making number ones, you gotta face the facts that you make different type of music. You make good quality music, but it's very different. And you gotta think about it from not everybody wants to listen to that type of music that you make all the time. Like, you have to think about it. I almost put it in a category, maybe it's very wrong to put it in this category, but I do, because I feel like you have to be in a certain type of mood to listen to these people. Although you may have to replace people, but for me to listen to like a Janae Aiko, a Lord, a Solange, a FKA Twigs, you have to be in a certain type of mood to listen to those artists. And not everybody wants to be that. Nobody wants to be in that mood all the time, you know? But people want to have fun. People want to talk about sex. People want to, because let's face it, sex sells. It's gonna sell for the longest time. Let's not act as if the music you make has not been popularized before. It has. You are doing very well in what you do. And the craziest difference is you write melodic poetry. You write music that's just completely different from what they write, although they do write the same subject matter like you, but it's very different. You put your pen to paper like other artists do, and critics are gonna be critics, and sometimes you can't look at the Billboard, because Billboard, to the powers that be, is who you're really speaking to, because you're just upset because of the fact that you have not been picked yet. And of course, artists, as much as they like to say they don't care about Billboard, they do. As an artist, you're almost picked on two hands. You want to do everything for your artistry, you want to make this type of music, but then again, it's not getting the critical acclaim that you want. So you do want that in the Billboard, because it looks great as like a credential. Like when you are somebody who's working, you want your resume to look good. So if you have that in your resume, then it looks good, and somebody can't downplay your success, which is true. So it's hard, which I understand. But then again, it's just great we have streaming services, because let's face it, everybody likes the music that's on the Billboard anyways. It's like you're also upset due to the fact that it's like, well, they got it, why can't I get it? Let's have more of the white America look be more represented on the Billboard. And if we're really gonna talk about the start of your career and how you started, and how since you've been ridiculed since 2010, well, okay, let's bring out artists that came out in like 2010s. Maybe just a little sooner than the 2010s is Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj has been ridiculed just as much, if not more, for what her music and what she puts out there, just like you. She's been ridiculed since she came out. She's been ridiculed for her body, her rapping skills. Not only for her rapping skills, as if she even writes her own music, which has been criticized and people have talked about for years and are still talking about it to this day. And we're gonna talk about LanaDelRey and talk about how she's the more criticized. Maybe in some ways she is right, because she is criticized through the white America lens, and it's like, wow, I'm not getting it as easy as I thought I would, but yet here it is. These other artists, we have to call it is what it is, have gotten to number one for talking about this subject matter, but yet I'm not getting it. Although, when you think about it, not only are some of these colored artists getting attacked, they're getting criticized by Black Sheep America, but not only just Black Sheep America, they're being criticized by also White Sheep America. They're getting it from both sides. While you, in a lot of ways, are only most likely looking at white America looking at you, while these other artists are looking at also not only white America, but also Black America, and then it trickles down from there. So in a way, you're saying it should be easier for you to to get to where you want to be than them, and how is it that they're able to get to that level is what I'm seeing here when you dissect it a little more and more. Props to you for sitting there and saying you stand by what you say. I see what she's saying. It could have been said differently, and I just want to have more. It's just more of like an open conversation of, this is what she said. Okay, now let's just dive deeper into what she's saying and how in some ways there's a conversation here of the type of music you make and the type of music they make, and how you feel as though you are in some way more deserving of getting a #1 than these women, because all they do and talk about is sex, drugs, and whatever else they are talking about. And you talk about music that's more of like, you know, embodiment and, you know, being one with yourself, although the music that you make is also controversial. So it's like you're comparing as if your music is so much better than what the music they're putting out. But when you think about it, it calls for critiques on both sides. So yeah, and there's nothing wrong, because music will be critiqued no matter what. Was she wrong? What, did she have every right? Is this only about music, or can you dive deeper into the conversation and talk about other things that she has talked about in her letter, which you can, and which what I did. I'm just posting different conversations of what she's talking about to see if people can get a different perspective of why people are upset and why people agree with what she's saying.
Let's go, come on.